Okay, we're back live here in the AM 1490 studios while Carol fights with her headphones. It's 43 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock, 33 degrees on top of Radio Hill, kind of a hazy sunshine outside. And it's time for the Safety and Security Show starring Carol Clark.
This is the monthly Safety and Security Show sponsored by Los Alamos Safety Managers Association with Carol Clark, who's the publisher of the online news Los Alamos Daily Post, Chief Wayne Torby of the Los Alamos Police Department, and Cheryl Ridlon, the Police and Fire Chaplain here in Los Alamos.
Great to be here, Nancy.
Thanks for joining us this morning.
So today we're going to talk about the every 15 minutes project, I guess you'd call it, that I know, Cheryl, you're kind of heading up for our community right now.
That's correct.
And Chief, you're involved because of the police aspect of all this. So basically the program, it's going to roll out over the next few weeks. The public might start to see certain little signs that something's going on, and we just want to kind of let them know a little bit about what it is that is leading up to the big kind of event. Mm-hmm. So what would you kind of like the public to know about this?
Well, the event itself is scheduled to happen in mid-April. It'll take place at the high school. And it is an event that was created to bring awareness to the public, specifically high school students, about the dangers of drinking and driving. We decided to incorporate into that, however, the whole element of distracted driving as well, since a lot of the, the horrible outcome from DWI is very similar to the accidents that we're seeing, with distracted driving. They say that distracted driving, whether it be texting and driving or, playing with your iPad or your iPhone or whatever, those accidents are, it eliminates your ability to pay attention and to react in a similar way that a couple beers would.
I see. So, Chief, what part will the police play in all this, or is the police playing in all this?
Oh, yeah. The police department, the fire department, our emergency medical personnel from fire. It's going to be a full participation public safety exercise that will happen one particular day. As you said, we're working on the public information aspect to make sure that folks understand that when this event does happen, they'll understand that it's just a training and educational exercise for students and for the community. But it's all just a bigger part of prevention. We know that we're very fortunate here in Los Alamos to have a low percentage of DWI accidents and a low percentage of accidents and crime for in general. But when they do happen, they're very tragic anywhere they happen, but I think more so in our community because we don't have very many. So the whole idea when it was brought to me almost a year ago from Cheryl and the chaplains was that we educate as much as we can, and we pick this particular time of year because school's getting ready to get out, and we have some big school activities, prom and so forth, and we just really we want people to understand that these various things, whether it's DWI, distracted driving, whatever, increase exponentially the odds of somebody getting into an automobile accident and getting killed.
Yes, and so you're part of the police and fire chaplains program, and it's yourself and Jeff Eichhorst. Mm-hmm. And kind of what do you guys do as far as just whenever there's accidents and things? Do you typically go and try to help with the families and all that? Or?
We do. We serve several different roles, and there's actually 4 chaplains that are serving the departments currently. There's also Lenny Fredland and Carl Ames. So if there's a major accident that occurs or any other tragic, traumatic event that would involve law enforcement or fire personnel, we'll respond to the scene, and we can spend time with the victims or with the victims' families and kind of help them get a support team around them, help them through that traumatic event, make sure that they're not left alone trying to figure things out. We make sure that they're in a good spot as far as having calling somebody from their church family or their friends or a neighbor or somebody to be with them. And then we'll help them through the process of grieving and understanding what grief and trauma is, because the emotional aspect, will overcome our ability to think clearly. So it's hard to make, just the smallest decisions sometimes. So we help them along that path. And then as far as the personnel goes, that responds to that accident scene, we also work with them if it's a very traumatic accident. Sometimes, a loss of life, or especially things involving children, it can stir up emotions. So we also work with them so that they don't develop, long-term issues or traumatic stress syndrome or anything along those lines.
That's amazing that the police and fire are stepping into that role.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I feel very blessed.
And I think that, or I assume that because you have had experience in these really horrendous accidents, this kind of a preventative program, you're trying to avoid having other people have to experience something so horrible as an accident where people die and that type of thing.
Exactly, because it's, talking to a lot of people, there's two ways of looking at this program, or a program like this. We can either say, it amazes me how many people come up to me and say, well, we've never had an accident, or we haven't had an accident as a result of a DWI in such a long time. But
you mean in the town?
In the town, right, especially involving teenagers. Well, I would much rather do it as a preventative item as opposed to a response to something. And then there's also the concern of, well, this could, potentially, if somebody has suffered a traumatic event involving some sort of accident, this could stir up emotions for them. So again, going back to that same thought of, this hasn't happened. If it does happen and we decide to wait till after it happens, how long do we wait? Because we're concerned about, bringing up emotions. One positive aspect that in all the questions that started coming up with this program, some of them in the form of objections, it actually started opening up more doors, because I feel like as a society we weren't ever really trained, at least not my generation, and I don't think my parents' generation, on how to deal with traumatic loss or grief or stress. And that's why a lot of the times when somebody goes through something tragic, we don't know what to say to them. And so we alienate them, or we say the wrong thing. And we don't know how to support them. We don't know who to turn to, because we're not going crazy. We've just gone through this really traumatic event. So we don't want to go see a psychiatrist, but we need somebody to talk to. We need to understand what we're feeling. And I thought this would be a great way to bring to this generation that's currently in the high school abilities to recognize traumatic stress symptoms in their friends. If a friend's going through the divorce of their parents, or the loss of a friend, or an awful accident or something like this, instead of walking away from them because they didn't know what to say, they'll now know, hopefully, through some lessons that we'll give them through this program, how to address those things, how to help their friends, how to guide them through it. And we'll be having a speaker come and teach, the signs of stress and grief and coping skills, and we'll have handouts, and hopefully they'll be able to take this stuff home. And in the grand scheme of things, we're really hoping that the kids, because kids aren't the only ones that are texting and driving. They're not the only ones, that are going to be drinking and driving. And they're not the only ones that are going to be going through these traumatic events in their life. So the hopes is that they'll be able to go home and bring this to their families as well. And that their parents will prompt discussions, on the lessons that they learned through this program.
And Cheryl, what is the meaning of the name Every 15 Minutes?
The organization named this program that because every 15 minutes somebody dies in a DUI-related accident in the United States.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. And then you throw on top of that figure the amount of people that are involved in accidents as a result of distracted driving. And it goes up tremendously.
And that's just you're talking about people who die. There's got to be a lot more people that are impacted by accidents.
Definitely.
Whether they're just minor or disfiguring in other ways.
Right. A great resource, and I would really encourage people to go and look it up. One is they can look up every15minutes.com, or they can YouTube every 15 minutes, and they can see these reenactments that other schools have put on that we're going to be simulating. It's going to be a huge event, and there's going to be a lot of EMS personnel. There's going to be a helicopter coming in, with life flight. So there's going to be a lot going on, and it's very realistic. Secondly, I would really encourage people to get online and Google or search the AT&T texting and driving video. It's a 10-minute video that goes over, the dangers of and the effects of those who have been involved in texting accidents, and it's very emotional because it actually has victims, people who were texting and hit somebody, or were family members of somebody who was killed as a result of texting, and even one who was a passenger, and his life will be forever changed because of the injuries that he suffered. So I think that it's easy to discount, but
well, yes, I run into adults that will say, I'm old enough, I can multitask.
Right.
Yeah. But your eyes can only be in one place.
Right, and they don't realize.
You can't put one eyeball on the road and one on the phone.
Right, and if you go anywhere, and I spend about 100 miles a day on the road, so I'm on the road a lot. And I see teenagers texting, I see, adults texting, I see, this is what's really scary to me, is, huge commercial vehicles, semis coming down Front Hill Road where the driver's texting and looking at his phone, and so it's all across the board. Anybody will do it, and we need to just be aware. It's easy to think that we're not going to be involved in any sort of accident, and I think we tend to look for vehicles in front of us, but what about, especially in Los Alamos, as active a community as it is, there's so many bicyclists on the road, and there's so many runners on the road. And we don't always see them.
And Chief, I know that you and I have talked in the past about these cell phone laws that you feel, if I'm correct in saying this, they're really so difficult to enforce, and it's really much better to have the people kind of make the decision themselves that they're not going to text and drive or talk on their phone and drive. They'll just wait till they get where they're going or pull over to talk. But I know that early on, when you all were just starting this program a couple of months ago, starting to talk about getting it going, I was at a meeting that you called at the police station, and you brought in top people from the schools. I know the superintendent was there, head nurse from the hospital, all the people that would be involved, I guess, if there were to be a tragic accident. And so could you talk a little bit about what made you kind of want to step up and get involved in this endeavor?
Well, excuse me. We had the judges, both municipal and magistrate. We had hospital administration represented. We had school superintendent was there. We had our chaplains. We had police, fire. We had a large group of people that we called together. And the reason was that I really believe that, this is a very important education program for the community. We needed buy-in from all of the people who would be affected by it. And that includes the citizens. That's why we're doing the radio show, and you had some newspaper articles and blog articles, and we're, I've often been asked about, a distracted driving ordinance for the city, for the county rather, and it's the data just doesn't support it locally. That doesn't mean that means anything, because one of the things that's been discussed quite often is that the nature of our roadways and our speed limits and things, also our low speed limits, affect the fact that we haven't had many documented really bad incidents because of this distracted driving. Now, you got to remember that's self-reported, so everybody doesn't say, well, I just ran into the back end of that car because I was texting. They say, I don't know what the heck happened. The guy stopped too fast. That's the story. So because it's self-reported, it's difficult to have good data on it. But I've always believed that the best and most proactive way to deal with anything is through education. Enforcement has its place, and obviously we use that for a lot of things, but if you can't affect a large enough group of people through enforcement to make a change, then adding more laws to the books. There's laws out there that we can deal with these things post the incident. Somebody crashes. So prevention is the key. And at some point, maybe one day down the road, we will decide in the county that the council will decide that they want a distracted driving ordinance. But my effort on this was brought when Cheryl and Jason Herrera brought the idea to me about this every 15 minutes program, which we've done once before here. It wasn't done very well. And I wasn't really too excited about doing it, to be honest, until they came in with a really good plan and understood the importance of public information and how we make sure the public knows that we're doing an exercise. It's not a real event.
Because the last time, a few years ago, I covered that event,
Right.
and it was basically held secret until the day,
Exactly.
and it was just such a shock.
Which doesn't mean that they did it wrong, because actually it's the way that it was initially designed to be done.
Yes.
But it wasn't the right way to do it for our community.
Yeah.
Our community, is very responsive, and we need to make sure that we don't, we have people driving by, and a lot of traffic that goes down the same roads, and they see things and they don't know about it. It panics people, and rightfully so. So we need not to have that happen. But, going back into what you said a minute ago, and I just want to kind of close in on that, make sure that, I said public safety, but this is schools, hospital, the whole contingent of community leadership that's involved in this. And, the broader spectrum of what you talked about with Cheryl about the chaplain program in general, and she touched on it, was this is a new approach for, and we talked about this the last show when Troy was here, this is an approach towards education and towards wellness for police and fire personnel as well. We'll do a lot of preparing them for a major event from an emotional perspective by doing this, as we've done some of the other trainings that we've done this year for them. And in the end, what I believe we have is a better and more competent set of public safety personnel. We'll have better and more competent folks within the school system, the hospital, and everybody else, because even though it's targeted towards the prevention of drunk driving and distracted driving, it's also an exercise where people will we will see how we all interact together and we're working together, so it'll be better for our response to a real event in the future.
It sounds like a great program. And when is this happening?
This is going to be in the middle of April, before prom.
Okay, middle of April. Now, I know Cheryl Ridlon and Chief Wayne Torpy have to take off for their real duties. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having us.
This is KRSN AM 1490 Los Alamos.
And there goes the last DJ who plays what he wants to play and says what he wants to say. Hey, hey, hey. And there goes your freedom of choice. There goes the last human voice. And there goes the last DJ.
All right, back live here, 9:04 in the AM, and we still have Carol here.
We have Carol Clark of the Los Alamos Daily Post. This is the monthly safety and security show sponsored by Los Alamos Safety Managers Association. So, Carol, I'm glad you're still here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Nancy. We've been doing this show since 2003, and it wasn't initially called the Safety and Security Matters Show. I just would, myself and Detective D. Wayne Williams from the police department just got talking one day about how it would be kind of nice once a month just to tell the public about any issues that the police had noticed, any trends in crime, and we just started kind of doing that. Well, then when Chief Torpy moved to town in 2006, I believe it was, he eventually was one of the founders of the Los Alamos Safety Association program that it brought all the top leaders from security at the lab to the fire chief, police chief, and a couple of his top officers, anybody in our community involved in safety, so that if something happened, they would all be familiar with each other. They meet once a month for lunch. They talk about any issues and get to kind of know each other and how each other think and that type of thing, so that when they do have to come together, such as some of them will for this every 15-minute program they're going to have just before prom in April, then they're not strangers. They know each other. And so then the chief said, we'd like to sponsor the program, and so then they began to be the sponsors of the program. So it's been several years now that they've been doing that. And we just, like today, this particular topic, we go through a wide range of topics, a wide range of guests, and I hope that the community likes it. They seem to.
Mm-hmm. So, and the group is called the Los Alamos Safety Managers Association, and they are sponsoring the show. Now, Carol, you recently launched, it's been about a month now, right, since you launched the Los Alamos Daily Post. This is an online newspaper.
Yes.
Or news media, I guess you call it, online news media.
Went live February 7th at 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And it has just, very pleased to say, it has been growing by leaps and bounds. How we gauge that is by the number of people who have, been hitting our show, which is over 1,200 a day and growing. Also, the people who have friended us on Facebook. We're well over 400 friends it was 3 weeks yesterday that we've been online, live, and behind the scenes I've got some people working on an expanded version of our site, so that as people one day soon, they'll click on the site and it'll look maybe just a little bit different, but it'll have more to it. It'll have a place for advertising, which will be my source of income, and it will have video. So when we're at various events around town, we'll take little video snippets and put on. We're going to start podcasting these safety shows, and there'll be archives so people can click on them and see, this show was on KRSN on such and such date, and they can listen to it again. We love to have a lot of photos. We've been very fortunate in that we want this to be a community endeavor. The Los Alamos Daily Post reflect the community, and we've kind of put the call out where we would love good photos, good stories, just good information that people can give us from wherever they happen to be involved in the community, so that we can bring that to the rest of the community. And we have people like T.K. Thompson, who is really a world-class photographer. He sends in the most extraordinary photos. He goes to a lot of the events, and especially right now with just myself, I can't be everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was at the art opening for Beauty and the Beast, and I happened to be at a meeting with Ken Niebel, the director of Fuller Lodge Art Center, on Monday, and he said that the Friday night opening was really great, and he said the majority of the people that came in said to him they heard about it by seeing the advance story on the Los Alamos Daily Post website, and Kirsten Lasky, who actually works at the lab, but she used to a long time ago be a reporter and everything, so she loves covering lifestyles or community events, and so she actually met with Ken, interviewed him ahead of time, did an advanced story all about it, and Ken said that drew a lot of people. They had 150 people at the opening, and he was very pleased with that, and of course I was very pleased to hear that feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the event, we were able to post photos from T.K. Thompson that just showed all the different things that went on there. So anyway, again, we would like to put the call out to the community. If you have a desire to write a column or write a story or send in photos, if you take a video of something interesting, just send it to us at citizencontent at losalamosdailypost.com.
Now, can you search on that? Is there capability to search
Yes.
on the website?
Yes. You can just put in whatever you're looking for, or you can put in by author, by headline, by subject, and the various stories that have that element in it will come up.
Fantastic.
So
it sounds like you're getting, 1,200 a day is a great hit. Do you have any kind of a subscription service?
no, we're trying to stay away from that. We don't want to charge for the website. We don't want to make people have to put in a password and all those things. We just want them to be able to go to it and it opens up. We also we do have a place where you can, at the bottom of the front page, where you can put in your email address, and then every time we post a new story or a photo,
I guess that's what I was thinking of. I knew there was something on there.
yeah,
Then
it'll
you get
come
an
right to
email?
your email. Now, what we're going to move to, because as more and more people are sending us things and we're posting more and more items, we don't want people to become annoyed that they're just, another thing from the Daily Post. We don't want to overwhelm their inbox. So once a day, we'll just put the headlines of all the things for that day, and then it'll just go in one email, and the person can click on whichever headline they're interested in, or click on all of them if they want.
Okay, we have a caller call in. Of course, KRSN 663-1490 is the phone number here. And they were stating that you think you have your email address wrong. It's LA Daily Post, not Los Alamos Daily Post.
Yes, LADailyPost.com.
Well,
I apologize.
you were incorrect before, and there was a caller calling to correct you there, Carol.
Okay, so citizen content at ladailypost.com if you'd like to send a story. Carol, you mentioned Kirsten Lasky has written for you. I know that there are some other regular writers. Can you give them some kudos?
Yes, of course, Bonnie Gordon, who's my partner in this. I mean, she is with UNM Los Alamos, their public affairs director, and she for 8 years was a lifestyle director, or lifestyle reporter, I should say, and knows all the people in the arts here in our town, and so she's she has a full-time job as well, and contributes when she can. She writes a column called Heart to Heart, which is, she's written 2 columns now, and they're archived on there on the site, and then she also writes advances for art and cultural events coming up, or attends and then writes a story afterwards. David Israelievitz is one of our regular columnists. He's on the county council, of course, and works at the laboratory. Kent Pegg from LA Fitness just began. He wrote his first column yesterday or the day before on how to have a healthy heart. Gave a lot of really good sound tips on that. And then Greg Kendall is very, very involved. He has the County Corner blog, and he's also on the Planning and Zoning Commission. He's very technical, and he's helping out a lot with the technical aspect of the site. And all these people are just volunteers. They're just doing it because they would like to see, an alternative news source, and they're just so great. And he has written columns and stories, and he and his wife Karen Kendall do these day trips where they go somewhere cool that's around our area that they can get to and back home in a day. And he's shared one of those with us, and he's going to share more. The one that he did share, excuse me, was about the Rail Runner. They took a trip on the Rail Runner, talked all about it, and had photos. So. And Gary Warren, who used to be a photographer here in our town for many years, and was a photographer at the laboratory before that. He and his wife owned Village Arts for many years. They moved to Denver about 4 years ago. He emailed me. He came across the news site and said that he would like to send in photos that are more of what we call standalone art, just something interesting. that people might like to look at. And so I told them, by all means, send them in. This morning I had an email from the Los Alamos Gymnastics Association asking if they could write an occasional story about what their gymnasts are doing. They have 40 students, and send us photos. I said, by all means. So any of the organizations out there that would like to send us information, we would love to post it.
Well, and I understand you met with the Arts Forum this week.
That is
to
correct.
share that opportunity with all of the different arts partners.
On Monday, and that's when I got this positive feedback from Ken Niebel of the Fuller Lodge Art Center. They, in fact, a representative from the symphony was there, Rosemary, and she went back, based on what we talked about, went back to her group, and I'm meeting today with Jackie McFarland from the symphony to talk about publicizing their events and so forth. So, but yes, I met with, kind of all the representatives from the various art organizations in town. I guess they get together every month. And I just told them, what we're doing and what we would like from them if they'd like to give us their information and so forth. And so we're getting to the point where we really are receiving a lot of advance notices of events every day in our email.
That's fabulous. So will you have a things to do section?
Yes, right now we have a button that connects to the Chamber's calendar, which can have 150 different events on it. And we're going to have a calendar also of our own when we go to the expanded site that might... You look at, it'll tell you just a brief information of what's going on, but then you can actually click and go right to that organization's website in just one click and get all their information and see what the organization's all about and that type of thing.
Now, Carol, when you're in the planning stages of this online news, I don't know what to call it, news source, did you research and find other towns doing anything similar?
Well, I really like the Huffington Post. And what I gleaned from that organization is that you had one individual, and she had this idea, and she just opened it up, and she has so many contributors that are doing interesting things and writing about them, and they're able to really appeal to a broad spectrum of people. And that's what I kind of formatted this after is, I thought, okay, I'm one person. How am I going to be able to really make this interesting and not just the things that I find interesting? I mean, if it was me, I probably would have all police and FBI news and lab security news. I just, for some reason, that's the area that I'm so drawn to. But I know that there's so many things out there for so many people to enjoy, and I thought if I could interest broad spectrum of the community to contribute, then I would have the product that I think the community might embrace. And that, in fact, is exactly what has happened with all these volunteers that just have stepped up, and I'm getting more every day saying, oh, I'd like to send you something, or I belong to this organization, could we start sending you things? And so I really would like more technical and scientific and engineering type columns and information from folks maybe that work at the laboratory, the scientists and engineers. I would welcome any columns that they might want to write. I've approached a historian at the lab asking if he would like to write maybe a monthly or every couple of months a column on some aspect of the history of the laboratory. And he's checking into it to see if he could do that. So, and then we've got the History Nuts working on a monthly column about the history of our town. And
that's great.
So there, we want there to be something for everybody. And if there is an area lacking, and someone's thinking, I wish that she had this or that on her site, just shoot us an email, and we'll we'll do our best to include that type of thing wherever we might be weak in some area. And then we're also, I was approached yesterday by a person at the lab whose daughter is in college, really great at Photoshop and photography and graphic arts. And he asked, when she comes home in April, could she intern with the Daily Post? And I said, well, some colleges will pay to have a student intern at a place and give them also school credit. And I said, if that's the case, absolutely. We're just starting, so we can't afford to pay, but we certainly would give her some great experience this summer, and we would welcome her to come on board if her college will pay her and give her credit.
Or maybe she'll want to volunteer.
Or maybe she'll want to volunteer.
If Dad's kind of into the idea too.
Maybe he'll pay her.
Right. Or put her up for the summer.
Yeah.
But it sounds really great. I have to say, the Huffington Post articles come up in the top 10 search things whenever you search for anything. So maybe one day the LA Daily Post will be coming up in those top 10 results too.
Yes, we really hope that this has legs, as they say, and staying power, and just grows and evolves the way the community would like it to. And I want to let the community kind of say where they would like to lead this by their input, what they give me. Also, I'm putting together an advisory board of volunteers that are experts in various fields, and have already asked and had affirmative answers to several people. Somebody from the arts world, somebody from the business world, somebody from the legal world, to get together maybe once a quarter and just talk about the Daily Post. What are we doing right? What could we do better? And just continually evolve and get better. That's the goal.
Fantastic. So this is Carol Clark we're talking with. She is the, let's see, for your title, the publisher of the online news Los Alamos Daily Post. It can be viewed online only, ladailypost.com. And you can subscribe so that you get emails telling you when there are new stories going up. She's inviting the whole community to contribute, actually, it sounds like. And
that citizen content I'm almost positive that it is spelled out, losalamosdailypost.com. And the reason I say that, David,
hey, I'm just telling you what the phone calls. I know. Don't shoot the messenger.
Good. Nancy's going to pull it up to be sure. This is what happened. When I got the site, we could have, www.ladailypost.com as our website, but all the emails, we couldn't have LA Daily Post,
you only get one email for that or something?
No, we don't get any because someone else already had at ladailypost.com, and it's probably in California. So we had to, for the email portion, like I'm C.A. Clark at losalamosdailypost.com, it had to be spelled out, all lowercase. But the URL, the website is ladailypost.com. But any emails, citizen content at losalamosdailypost.com. So maybe the person misunderstood that I was...
Well, I'm glad that they were listening.
Yes, that's wonderful. I really appreciate that.
It might have been one of your contributors.
It might have been.
So it'll take my computer a little while to warm up here. Carol, you mentioned that you're looking for some science input. Are there any other areas that you would love to see covered that you don't have any volunteers to give you content on?
Well, right now I just finished a 5-part series on PAC 8 covering engineering projects at the laboratory because February is National Engineering Month. Steve Gerens, who's Associate Director for Engineering at the laboratory, he and several other engineers came on and showed samples of what they were doing. They are the backbone of the lab. The physicists think of these extraordinary ideas, and then the engineers make those ideas work. They bring them to reality. And it was just great all these years. Again, since 2003, I've been doing this show on PAC 8 called Behind the White Coat, Conversations with Los Alamos Scientists. And it's viewed on UCLA in California, and they have 12 million subscribers around the world that can log in and see the show. So it really shines a positive spotlight on Los Alamos, the great work that's being done here. I've never thought about the engineers, and happened to be talking to Steve Guerin one day, and he mentioned all the great things that they were doing, and that gave me the idea. And so we rolled it out for February and people can view those interviews. Right now they're being broadcast on PAC 8. Or they can see them online, But anyway, so I would love to have an engineering column, a science column. We've got, as I said, a history column coming in the works. But if there's anyone out there that has ideas and thinks, they're not covering this, that column on this subject would be great, just let us know, and we would be so happy to try to find somebody that could do that. Peak is sending us, Terry Fox is a great writer. She's involved with Peak. She's an expert on many things, including fire. She has a lot of knowledge about fires and that type of thing. Anyway, she's already sent us one column and is going to be sending us another.
It does come up, C.A. Clark at losalamosdailypost.com.
Yeah, so it does need to be spelled out for the emails. But if you go to the website, it's strictly ladailypost.com. So any citizen input, it's citizen content at losalamosdailypost.com, all spelled out, all lowercase.
Great. Looking good. We should put up our calendar of, I'm losing my headphones. We should put up our calendar of interviews for our morning show on your Daily Post.
That would be great.
Would it?
We would be very happy to have that. Absolutely. And we would also like to start podcasting the daily, our monthly safety and security matters shows, as we said. I don't know if there's a way to of course, can your daily shows be podcast live? No.
No,
Not yet.
It's a technology issue.
Okay.
And a personnel
Actually,
issue.
I have just assigned it to somebody.
Oh, fantastic.
To look into doing that.
I did that yesterday.
That's great. Once you make that happen, David, just let me know. We'd be glad to carry that in case people aren't near a radio, but they're near their computer.
Well, the computer, you can always tune in on the computer live.
To KRSN, I see.
And so the podcasting is later. It's for if maybe you're driving to work and you hear that we're interviewing Carol Clark, but you have to go to work and you want to hear the interview when you get home in the evening, you can click on the button and replay it.
Okay,
so
great.
the podcast is replaying what was played. Tuning in live, it's KRSN AM1490.com and click on the little red radio.
Perfect.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Well, this has been the Safety and Security Show, sponsored by Los Alamos Safety Managers Association. We are talking with Carol A. Clark, the publisher of the online news Los Alamos Daily Post. Earlier, we had Chief Wayne Torpy and Cheryl Ridlon from the Los Alamos Police Department talking about the every 15 minutes project, which will happen sometime in April before prom.
That was shocking to hear that every 15 minutes there's an... Did she say somebody dies?
Somebody dies throughout the country.
From a DWI or
it
DUI.
Is shocking. So imagine all the people that aren't dying but are involved in the accidents too. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us, Carol. You're listening to KRSN AM 1490 Los Alamos.